My name is Elena Vargas and I am 31 years old. My parents shamed me for marrying a farmer while my sister Valeria Castillo was marrying a corporate type. And although that phrase sounds like something exaggerated, it was exactly what I felt from the moment I arrived at the hotel where the wedding would be celebrated. The place was elegant with crystal chandeliers, impeccable carpets, and employees who smiled with that cold courtesy that reminds you whether you belong to that world or not. I wore a simple dress, pretty but without brands, without excessive shine, without that air of luxury that my family seemed to demand that day. As soon as I crossed the entrance, my mother looked me up and down without disguise, as if she were evaluating a mistake she did not know how to correct. She took me by the arm to pull me away from the others. In a low voice but with a hardness that pierced me, she told me that I could not sit with the main guests. The best would be for me to stay outside the main hall at an auxiliary table near the hallway to avoid any discomfort. I did not respond because I understood perfectly what it meant. They wanted to hide me. My father did not even look at me. He was too busy greeting the partners of my sister Valeria Castillo's fiancé. A man in an expensive suit who spoke of investments, international businesses, and figures that seemed to define his value as a person. My sister Valeria Castillo, radiant in her white dress, passed in front of me without stopping, barely a nod of the head, as if I were a distant acquaintance and not her own blood. It was then that I heard for the first time the whisper that would repeat throughout the entire afternoon. She is the one who married the farmer. They did not say it with curiosity, but with that tone that mixes mockery and pity. I sat where they indicated, in that separated table from where I could partially see the hall decorated with white and gold flowers, but without really being part of the celebration. The waiters passed in front of me without offering anything at first, as if my presence was not considered in the protocol. I had to ask for water twice before someone attended me. Meanwhile, inside the hall, everything was laughter, toasts, and applause, a world to which I clearly did not belong according to my own family. I remembered the day when I told them that I would marry Ethan, how my mother remained silent and then said that she hoped it was a joke. How my father asked exactly what he did, and when he heard farmer he simply shook his head. For them it did not matter that Ethan was hardworking, honest, that he had built everything with his own hands, that he had never disrespected me, not even for a single day. The only thing that mattered was that he did not fit the image they wanted to show to the world. And now at the wedding of my sister Valeria Castillo, that difference became public, evident, humiliating. At one moment my sister Valeria Castillo's fiancé approached with a group of friends, all laughing, all with glasses in hand, and upon seeing me one of them asked who I was. He responded with a twisted smile as if he were telling a joke. "It is the sister, the rustic one." Some laughed. Others pretended not to hear, but I felt how that word remained suspended in the air, sticking to my skin. I said nothing because in that instant I understood that any reaction would only confirm what they thought of me. I looked at my hands, breathed deeply, and tried to keep calm, reminding myself that I had chosen my life, that I did not need their approval. However, there was something that hurt me more than the contempt of strangers, the indifference of my own family. The minutes passed, then the hours, and no one came to look for me, no one sat with me, no one asked if I was okay. It was as if I were a shadow in an elegant corner, an uncomfortable detail that everyone preferred to ignore. Outside the hall, the hallway was in silence, contrasting with the music and the laughter that filtered from inside. And for the first time in a long time I felt that mixture of sadness and determination growing in my chest. Because I knew that this would not end like this, it could not end like this. Although at that moment I still did not imagine how everything would change when the doors of the hall opened again. I never thought that the most important moment of that night would come from the most unexpected place. I continued sitting at that separated table, feeling how each minute weighed more than the previous one, when I heard the doors of the main hall open with a firm sound that broke the music for an instant. I did not give it importance at first because I assumed it would be another important guest, another partner of my sister Valeria Castillo's fiancé, another person who fitted perfectly in that world where I had no place. But then I noticed something different. The murmur changed. It was not the typical elegant conversation, but a brief silence followed by confused whispers. I lifted my gaze, and it was in that instant when I saw him. Ethan, my husband, walked with a calm confidence, dressed in a dark suit perfectly tailored that I had never seen him wear before. His firm posture, his clear gaze, as if he knew exactly where he was going. For a second my mind could not process it, because it was not the image that everyone had built of him, not even the one my own family had accepted. It was not the farmer in the derogatory sense that they repeated. He was a man who commanded respect without the need for words. Several people turned their heads, some stopped talking, others tried to figure out who he was. Even the hotel staff changed their attitude, approaching with evident deference. Ethan advanced without hurry, without seeking approval, without showing discomfort, and when his eyes met mine, all the noise disappeared for me. He stopped in front of my table, completely ignoring the absurd division that my family had created, and with a slight smile he said to me, "I thought you would be inside." I did not know what to answer right away, because in that moment I felt a mixture of relief, pride, and something deeper, the certainty that I was not alone, that I had never been alone. Before I could say anything, my mother appeared clearly uncomfortable, trying to regain control of a situation that was slipping away from her. She asked Ethan with that educated but tense voice who had invited him to enter directly into the main hall. He looked at her calmly and responded something that changed the atmosphere completely. "I'm here because my wife belongs here, and where she is I am too." He did not raise his voice, he was not aggressive, but every word fell with an impossible weight to ignore. My father, Don Javier Castillo, who until then had avoided looking at me, also approached, trying to maintain his image in front of the guests, but it was evident that he did not know how to react. My sister Valeria Castillo's fiancé, the same one who had called me rustic, remained silent for the first time all night. No one was laughing now. No one whispered with mockery, because Ethan not only had entered, he had changed the dynamic without effort, without unnecessary confrontations, just by being who he really was. Then he did something even simpler but more powerful. He extended his hand to me. "Come," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I hesitated barely a second, not out of fear, but for everything that gesture meant. I looked around, saw the tense faces, the curious looks, the wounded pride of my parents, and understood that this was the moment that would define everything. I took his hand. We stood up and walked together toward the main hall. No one stopped us, no one dared, and for the first time that night I did not feel out of place. We sat at a visible table, not hidden, not separated. And although the discomfort in the atmosphere was evident, so was the change, because they could no longer treat me as if I did not exist. The wedding continued, but something had been broken, or perhaps something had been revealed. My sister Valeria Castillo avoided looking at me for the rest of the night, and my parents maintained an uncomfortable distance, but they no longer had the absolute control they had held before. When everything ended and we left the hotel, the fresh air made me breathe differently, as if I had removed a weight I had carried for too long. I looked at Ethan and understood that I did not need to prove anything to anyone else, that the life I had chosen was not inferior, it was not shameful, it was not something to hide, it was real and sufficient. If this story made you feel something, if you have ever felt belittled by your own decisions or by who you are, remember this. Value is not defined by the opinion of others, but by the firmness with which you decide to live your truth. And if you want to hear more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and join me in the next one. Thank you for listening to today's story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. See you in the next story.